Hey everyone, it's MK. Welcome back to MK Quilts and MK Quilts University. Today I'm making a new video in my Load Quilts the MK way because we are loading today the Moxie. And for us here in the studio, as of the date of this video, all things Moxie and Pro Stitcher Lite and the Loft Frame are still relatively new for us, and I haven't yet had a chance to make a loading video. Now, there are a lot of different ways to load, you guys. I mean, like almost the sky's the limit. People load their frames in different ways. Some of us have different frames and we have them configured differently. There's different tools that some of us like to use as opposed to other people. You're here generally because you want to learn the MK way. So what we're going to do today is load our frame with two tools that do not come with your Loft Frame. So we're going to be loading using zippers, and we're going to be loading with a product called Sew Tights. Now, I already have videos created to show you how to add the Sew Tights to your leaders. Now, in those videos, the Sew Tights are being added to your quilt leader only. Okay, so let me just stop right there. If you are a person who likes to do full float all of the time, this video is not for you. Because I generally don't float that often. I really like to attach the bottom of my quilt to my quilt leader so that I can distribute that quilt along the leader. Helps me keep it nice and flat as can be, straight as can be. It just helps me roll that quilt through the frame, and when I get down to the end, I don't have any waviness going on. Well, sometimes I do, but that's another story, right? Based on who pieced that quilt. But the point of the story is I feel like distributing that quilt bottom onto your leader with either pins, although I like to try not to use too many pins when possible when loading, but distributing it with either pins or the Sew Tights is really going to keep that bottom edge in position and in place all the way to the end of the quilt. So on our Loft Frame, I have already inserted my Sew Tight magnet bars into my quilt leader. Now, again, there I need to stop because our Loft Frames have two different pole configurations for the front bars. We have either low configuration or high. For those of you who are familiar with our other machines and our other frames, we refer to that on the other frames as either standard load or clear view load. Okay, so let's compare them. Clear view load would be what I have this configured to. I have our frame configured to low load formation, which is equivalent of clear view, meaning that our quilt bar is lower than our backing bar. Now, if you wanted to put your loft into standard or high mode configuration, then this would be your quilt bar and this would be your backing bar. Okay, so this is the leader on my quilt bar that my Sew Tights have been attached to. You can watch that other video to see how I got those magnets inserted into the leader. Now on the other two bars, which are my backing bars, I have zippers attached. Now I've been using zippers for a long time and I've kind of zeroed in on a method that I prefer with the zippers. Now when we buy the zippers, they come as just a zipper, two parts of a zipper, pull it on. And you could actually use the zipper without adding the fabric that we add to the zipper. But over time, I have just really learned that I don't want to be using the zipper itself so close up to the teeth of the zipper. I would rather that the teeth of the zipper just be attached close to my leader. My original leader on this portion right here stops right here. That's where the initial leader was. I've added on one half of the zipper, and then the other half of the zipper, we call that the zipper tab, we have attached a piece of fabric. So the benefit to you of buying the zippers from me is that we've already done all of this for you. We have done 98% of the work of attaching these zippers and making the tabs and making them all pretty and all of that. We have done that for you thanks to my sewing specialist, Pam. She's the one that does all of the zippers. So I'm obviously going to drop links here in the video to how you can order the zippers. And what you're going to receive in the zipper is 2 fabric tabs, one for the front and one for the back. They both have zippers attached to them. And then one of those fabric tabs has a casing in it, and one of them most likely does not have a casing in. Now let me just take a little bit of a timeout and explain to you, why does one of the fabric tabs have a casing and one does not? Most of our zippers that we make, up until this time when we had Loft Frame and Moxie, most of those zippers were going onto either a studio frame or a gallery frame. And the way that I load on those frames, part of that loading happens from the back of the machine with a product called leader grips. If you know of red snappers, it's a very similar product, and I developed my whole loading techniques around using the leader grips in the back. Well, the back is where we make the fabric tab that has the casing in it. The casing is so that you can slide the dowel part of the leader grip in there. Now, we're not going to change the way that we make our zippers, and we're not going to use any dowels or rods or leader grips or snappers or anything in this video. It's okay that it has a casing on the back. We're just not going to use it. We're not going to insert anything into the casing. Maybe at some point in the future, you will want to use leader grips or red snappers or whatever. Well, then you're going to want a casing in at least one of your backing zippers. Now, fast forward again. If you come to the point where you want to use the snappers or the grips or whatever, and you want to use them on both front and back backing bar leaders, then you can take what I have sent to you in the form of the fabric zipper tab, and you can just fold it over and create your own casing by sewing that down, okay? In our world, the way that I normally load is with grips in the back, thereby needing the casing, only zipper in the front, thereby not needing the casing, and I use the magnets on the quilt bar. So that's loosely what we're going to do here today. All right, so here is the little quilt that we're going to be quilting today. It's our Father's Day June version of the Celebrate the Seasons panel quilt that Ellen, my studio manager, created for us. The nice thing about these small quilts is that she designed them to be able to fit on one piece of 45-inch wide regular quilt shop quality cotton fabric, okay? So we don't need a 108 or we don't need to do any piecing or anything. We just need to make sure that our backing is long enough to cover the quilt. It is wide enough. I have measured. Now, earlier in the video, I mentioned to you that there's a lot of different ways that people load. And maybe that you've watched other videos where people instruct you. You need to find the center part of this leader, and the center part of this leader, and the center part of that leader, and the center part of this, and center, center, center. That's a perfectly fine way to do it. If you want to do it that way, you can. I have never really loaded that way, and here's why. In my world, my frame, the tabletop portion of the frame, serves multiple uses. Not on this particular frame because we've got it set so small, but on the other frames, I use my tabletop to store things like some of my tools, my bobbin winder. And when I'm loading, I want my machine down to one end of the frame, usually down to the left end of the frame. So that means that the left end of my frame is kind of cluttered up sometimes with other things. So if I want to load and not get myself so close to where all of that other stuff is, well then I'm just going to load a little bit further down in the frame wherever it's more convenient for me to leave my machine and all the other stuff out of the way and just load further down. Okay, well then if I'm loading further down, does it really help me to have a centering mark in the very center of my leader if that's not where I want to load? No. Do I want to have a million marks on my leaders? No. Okay, so here is what I do. I pretty much decide where on the frame I'm going to load.